Hello team members, I'm called Amina Gloria Irnkunda, and I'm going to discuss with you the components of my report, and um, I'm going to explain with you some terms and the definition of those terms and how they affect the global business and Acme Widget Company. So this report is composed of pastel analysis of four countries, which are France, India, China, and Vietnam. Uh, this includes the political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors that Acme Widget Company will consider when expanding business in those countries that I have mentioned above. The report includes like it includes how each factor will affect will have an effect to USA and Acme Widget Company. It also includes the similarities and differences between USA and France, India, and China. So uh, I'm going to talk about exchange rates. Exchange rates refers to the comparison of the value of nation's currency with the currency of another nation. So it shows it's how the currency of one nation uh, is different, is compared to another currency of another nation. So taking an example, like if you take 1,000 Rwanda francs, it can buy $1. So this 1 USD dollar, this shows that the currency rate of this shows that Rwandan francs has low value compared to USD dollars. So uh, as an example of currency rates, exchange rates, 1 USD can be exchanged in 0.89 euros of France, and 1 USD can also be exchanged in 69.32 Indian rupee, and 1 USD can be exchanged in 6.71 Chinese yuan. This shows the exchange rate, how like you can exchange currency with another currency, how they value that currency considering another currency. So in comparing those three countries, you can see that the US dollars have more value than the currency of other countries like France, India, and China. So the currency exchange rates affects global business negatively and positively. When there is high exchange rate in a certain country, it can discourage people from importing or exporting goods in that country, because there will be high exchange rates. So that can affect global business, because people will be discouraged from exporting and importing goods from that country. And when the exchange rate is low, then there will be an increase in exporting and importing goods and services from one country to another, and that will be a positive effect, because it will be encouraging global business. So exchange rate can be also a risk or a benefit to Acme Widget Company, depending on the currency in the country that the company is exporting its goods to. Taking an example, if the country's currency has no value, then it will be cheap for the company to export its goods to that country, because the exchange rates will be low, and there will the tariffs and trade barriers that will be exposed to the company will also be low, because the currency of USD will be having high value than the currency of that country. So this shows that it can also have an impact on the company as well. Trade barriers refers to the restrictions the government set on the trade of goods and services between two countries. The trade barriers that the government impose on the goods and services are tariffs, subsidy to a particular domestic industry, embargo, and protection. This can also affect global business because when the trade barriers are high, they discourage people from conducting business around the world. And when they are low, then people are able to conduct business around the world. Taking an example, when you are uh, trading your goods to a country where they expose low taxes, then that will we encourage people to export goods to that country because taxes will be low, and when taxes are high, then there will not be this there will be when taxes are high, they will be discouraged from exporting to that country because it will be very expensive for the country to export those goods. So the risk that Acme can have on trade barriers in the country is going to invest is high trade barrier. This is because it will be expensive for the country to pay those taxes, and the products will have high prices, which can also discourage the demand of those products. It can also be a benefit when the trade barriers are low because it will be cheap for the company. So you can see that trade barriers can be a benefit or a risk to the company depending on the country that the company is exporting the goods to, because when they expose high trade barriers, it will be very expensive for the company, and when they expose low trade barriers, then it will be cheap for the company to export goods in that country. Another thing is about imports and exports. Imports refers to goods that are bought by residents of the country from another country. So taking an example, if Rwanda buys clothes from Uganda, then clothes are the imports of Rwanda. And exports are also goods and services which are produced in one country and purchased by residents of another country. If Taking an example, if Rwanda produces tea and coffee and then he sells them in Uganda, then coffee and tea are the exports of Rwanda. This can also affect the global business because they are the ones which makes they're the ones which makes that business to happen globally. Without exports and imports, then there should be no global business. So when there is high level of exports and imports, then there is increase in global business, and when there is low exports and few exports and few imports, then there is no global business. So for the company, when they are exporting their products in the country, like which does not need like imports, or which exports high taxes on imports, then it can be very difficult for the company to work in that country, and it can be a risk because taking an example, they when they expose taxes on those imports, then the country will have the company will have to increase prices of those products because of those high taxes, which can also lead to decrease in demand and hence decrease in revenues. And that is also a risk that can happen whenever the country you're exporting your goods to is not interested in imports. Thank you so much for listening to this video.